Good morning, everyone. Yes, it's time to do business, and it will be just 30 minutes, about 30 minutes on this side of the show before Kayla comes back on air. We start from the global space as usual. Oil prices rose marginally in early trade on Friday, but we're on track for a third straight week of decline, hurt by U.S. President Donald Trump's renewed trade war on China and threats of tariff hikes on other countries. Look at the numbers for this morning. It's 15 cents increase on Brent. That's 0.15%. It's at $74.44 a barrel. WTI of the United States has dropped to $71.70. But then that's after it gained 0.9%. And we do know, of course, that President Donald Trump is on top of the market move. It will be the first time in 5 months that there have been 3 straight weeks of decline. So even though this year started on a high for oil prices, we've seen since that pronouncement and the inauguration of President Donald Trump, the price has been dropping. Over the weekend, we know that he announced that 10% tariff on Chinese and then put on hold the one for Canada and Mexico, and then a lot of unsettling going on there. What will happen in less than 30 days to oil prices and with the trade war? And then we come to our Naira. Look at the numbers for this Monday's close, Thursday's close. And we've seen that, I think, for 2 consecutive days now, we've seen a drop to about 1,000, less than 1,500, even though not in all the market, but we've seen it either one market or two in the last 2 trading sessions. So the NFM yesterday closed at 1,499 Naira at 14 kobo, and then we saw the NAFEX at 1,505 Naira to 2 kobo, while the CBN rate, that's the average trade, the cost, the average price that was traded on the EFM yesterday, we saw was just about 1,500. The Apex Bank did participate in the market yesterday to ease demand pressures at the market, and then the market traded between this and 1,490 at the EFMs. Well, yesterday, some not so good news. For some quarters of the Cannabis Nigerian Ports Authority, they've raised the port's tariffs by 15%. Well, this is the first increase in 32 years. The NPA Managing Director Abubakar Dan Social said at the stakeholders meeting in Lagos that there was a need to address rising operational costs. Well, same thing the telcos are saying. And he explains that despite exchange rate fluctuations, higher fuel prices and increasing wages, tariffs had remained unchanged for decades. He says that the adjustments will help maintain efficient services and improve port infrastructure. The NPA promises to reinvest the additional revenue in security, cargo handling, and modernizing port facilities. And of course, there's been reaction following this. We see from the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, they've raised concerns over the sudden implementation of a 4%. Oh, this is another one that came on yesterday. That was the customs processing charge that was about 4%, had about 4% increase, and supposed to take effect from February the 4th. Well, the chamber is calling on the federal government and the Customs Service to suspend the charge and properly engage stakeholders before enforcement. While the charge is backed by law, LCCI argues that its abrupt rollout violates Section 23 of the Nigeria Customs Service Act, which mandates public notification. According to the chambers, this would be another addition to the multiple taxes which they face, as well as high interest rates and forex shortages. The unexpected charge, they say, will disrupt trade and increase costs. And so the chamber is calling for improved port efficiency, trade facilitation instead of new financial burdens. It warns that the charge could cause port congestion and harm the economy, urging the government to prioritize automation and infrastructure upgrades. Tariff from everywhere. Well, the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria, SMEDEN, they have the support of the United Nations Development Program, and they've launched a solar-powered garment-making center to provide SMEs with affordable access to modern equipment and reliable, sustainable energy. This initiative is designed to empower garment manufacturers by lowering operational costs and ensuring uninterrupted power supply through solar energy. And this is supposed to enhance productivity and business growth. Nigeria is home to nearly 40 million micro, small and medium enterprises that play a crucial role in the country's economy. However, erratic electricity supply has long been a major challenge for small businesses, particularly in sectors reliant on machinery like garment production.
Passion for the cost of doing business is very expensive for small businesses. So what we're doing today is we're reducing that cost. Right now, small businesses can come in here, book a machine to work for free. They don't bother about power. They don't bother about buying the machine. They don't bother about maintaining the machine. They can just come here and work. As soon as they work, they produce the product. They can warehouse next door, yeah, and they can distribute the product anywhere across 36 states at the FCT at a reduced price because we've negotiated an MOU with NIPOS, we've negotiated an MOU with God is Good Logistics. So our small businesses can distribute. With God is Good Logistics is about 20% off. With NIPOS is about 15% off. So this is more money coming to our small businesses for them to increase their productivity, for them to do bigger businesses, for them to actually expand the work that they're doing. And I assure you that more jobs will be created. Imagine this in all the 360 central districts or 109 central districts. Imagine the effect that would be in Nigeria, driving the cost of unemployment, driving low unemployment, driving low underemployment. That has hindered the capacity of many to do work and earn a decent living in Nigeria today.
All right, and now the National Identity Management Commission has cleared FIC, that's Financial Inclusion Center professionals, to participate in the World Bank-backed Identity for Development Ecosystem Enrollment Service in Nigeria. Let's find out how this is going to work and if it's different from what we've been experiencing before now. We have joining us from our Abuja studio to discuss this the Executive Director of Financial Inclusion Centers and also of the Financial Inclusion Center Professionals Network PLC, Mr. Shola Bickersteth. Thank you so much, Mr. Bickersteth, for joining us on the program. Good morning.
Good morning.
So is this different from what we've been having before, having the FIC professionals now involved in this project?
Oh, yes. The expectation is that there will be better efficiency in capturing the biometric identity of all Nigerians in the next few months, given the framework that the ID for the project has been put in place, supported by the World Bank.
Yeah, but efficiency comes with infrastructure and all of that. How empowered are the FICs, to take up this role?
FIC has been a leader in providing access to finance infrastructure across Nigeria. We've done this severally with state governments for the BVN enrollment across Nigeria, for the SIM-Reg registration. So we have years of experience to provide the kind of support that is required to ensure that every Nigerian from birth gets a digital ID in the next few months.
Yeah, I was talking of the infrastructure. I know you're going to need computers, you're going to need internet. Sometimes you go for some of these things, you said, oh, there's no network, you have to hold on, you have to come back. So how empowered are you in that area?
Yes, that's what I was referring to. In terms of connectivity, what we use are field devices. They are like big POS devices, if you like, that can be taken to field, and even in the middle of a remote area, They're able to have internet connectivity, and they're able to drive data back to the central NIMC database. So that device, which is very handy, is what is going to be deployed to every nook and cranny of Nigeria. It's not a new development. It's just an improvement on what we have actually been doing over the past 4 years. In the past 4 years, we've successfully acquired data of 108 million Nigerians. So this is more or less like phase 3, if you like, where we're going to acquire the remaining, but in a much more efficient manner.
Well, I'm happy you mentioned that number, Mr. Bickersmith, because there's been a lot of arguments for financial inclusion. I wanted to say, how impactful has your network been in these years of existence?
Oh, well, I think one of the obvious outcomes of our efforts are people that we now call POS agents across Nigeria. 10 years ago, actually 12 years ago in 2012, when we approached the Central Bank of Nigeria, that the existing ATM networks was not going to serve especially the rural areas. And we proposed what is now called POS agents. It eventually was adopted, and the agency banking guideline was developed by the Central Bank of Nigeria. So today, there are 2.1 million POS devices that are being used for access to cash in Nigeria. And there are like about 1 million, we don't have the actual figure yet, POS agents all over the country that are more or less making Nigeria's economy liquid. So that is one of the obvious outcomes of our efforts to build financial inclusion infrastructure for Nigeria.
You know, a wider conversation on the role of POS in Nigeria gives a bittersweet perspective. For instance, our ATMs mostly now are empty, but the POS operators always have cash. And there's the argument or allegation of collaboration between POS agents and the banks to dry up the ATM so that consumers will always go to the POS operators.
Well, it's exactly what it is. It's conspiracy theory. Everybody goes to POS not because the cash doesn't exist in the ATM. It is actually the opposite that happens. What happened is a natural direction towards what is working. People find it easier to walk into a marketplace and look for a POS around because the distribution of ATMs is not as much. So what happened is a situation where banks put a lot of cash in their ATMs and nobody is going there anymore. So what do you do where the ATMs are not being as used as they used to be? Having said that, a lot of those that we call POS agents today are working with fintechs who are not banks. They don't have banking halls where their agents can walk in and request for cash. So it left a bit of a gap that you might say some individuals are taking advantage of in order to help those POS agents of fintech organizations to gain access to cash. But it's not like there's some sort of collaboration. It's just an opportunity that is being taken care of. But CBN has taken care of that. They've given official warning to the banks to make sure that cash is available in their POS machines. And of course, the agents that need it get the cash that they need to make it available to members of the public.
You know, I do beg to disagree that there's money in ATM and people don't go there. I'm a consumer in Nigeria, and especially when you go to the POS operators and they charge you so much, you know, to get a small sum of money. It does seem like we're even buying Naira in our own country. And yes, the CBN has given orders and warnings, but I don't know what's happening in between. But the ATMs are still empty, and yet the POS operators are still full of cash and ready to serve at a cost that sometimes doesn't seem reasonable. So I'd like for you to speak to that. Why does it seem like we are buying Naira in our country? Why does it cost so much, for us to get cash from POS operators?
Well, that's one way of looking at the situation. If we go back, let's say 10 years ago, when there were no POS agents all over the place, I remember in those days, you would enter into your vehicle and you would drive around town looking for ATMs that work. And in some rural areas, you actually have to travel like an hour to get to the nearest ATM machine. What you are forgetting to add to the equation is that cost and time of travel. If it's going to cost you 1,000 Naira to transport yourself to an ATM machine, and then you have to shut down your business or whatever you're doing to go and get that cash. And hey, here is this person next to you. You're not going to pay any extra cost of transportation, but you can walk there and get that cash. So rather than looking at the charge that POS operator is making or is charging as the cost of accessing cash, you have to look at the complete picture, which is that it is actually costing you less to get that cash, because by the time you add transport and time, you will have spent much more. So look at it as a service and less of you're buying cash. And that's one simple way. That doesn't mean that POS operators should not be properly regulated. That is what we advocate, that POS operators need to be better regulated than they presently are.
What would a proper regulation look like from your perspective?
Capacity building is very, very important. We have a situation as at today where more or less POS business has been turned to Okada riding. Everybody and anybody can come in. Of course, you don't need to be a university graduate to get into POS business, but there's some basic training, even for your own good. When issues of fraud come up, it is usually because you have an untrained POS operator who has not been taught how to protect themselves, how to verify customers, how to manage cash, and how to keep records and all those kind of things that are required for sustaining the system and for, of course, enabling quality of service to the members of the public. So basic training, minimum basic training for all POS operators is a starting point.
I guess that's what the CAC was bringing up the other time, and it did settle down well. I wonder how that matter, even if it has ended, but it seems to have died down, at least for now.
No, the CAC angle is a different dimension. And once again, it's for everybody to understand the rationale behind it. As of today, a lot of crime has moved towards POS locations for obvious reasons. They are all over the place. There are 2.1 million devices all over the place. So crime has moved towards that direction in itself. Now, for us to be able to deal with the outcome of that migration towards that, when an individual approaches another individual and says, I want to do a cash withdrawal, and it happens to be a criminal situation, now when that matter is reported, it becomes a personal matter. So that individual is going to be arrested for being part of a crime. But if you are a registered business as a POS operator, then at least the criminal angle, you are better protected. And that's why POS operators are advised, don't do this in your personal name. Do it as a registered business, so that when problem comes, you are at least exonerated or better protected from being treated individually as a criminal. It hasn't stopped, and of course, those who have taken time to register their businesses for their POS operators, they will soon start seeing the value, apart from the immediate benefits of not being, treated as criminals when situations arise between them and members of the public.
I know there was a task force that was created from within the operators, and then we did see them go around to maybe raid and at least try to check some operators. I wonder if that task force is still active and if they've been able to record any gains so far.
Oh, well, the task force effort is appreciated by the Association of Mobile Money Operators, but the central bank has put in place something even better, which is a database of all POS agents across Nigeria. There is an organization called Shared Agent Network Facility, which is SANEF, who are mandated to more or less issue out a registration ID for all POS agents across Nigeria. And by getting an ID, which is like a plate number, very soon you'll be able to even visually verify who is an authorized POS agent or otherwise. So the physical task force effort is good, but digital enforcement is going to come into place very soon, led by the central bank and SANEF.
Yeah, we do hope that, members of the public would be alerted on, what to look out for, who are those they should deal with and not. But with all of this data and regularization going on, can we expect more from, the financial inclusion agents? I'll prefer to call you that, when it comes to helping to curb fraud and illegal activities, ransom from kidnapping and all of that? Can we expect more?
Oh, sure. I've just given a background that once we start issuing a digital identity to all verifiable POS operators, and of course, once we also get to the space where all POS operators receive basic training, and by the way, the basic training is available for free by SANEF. Those who want to go a little higher can also get training from the Chartered Institute of Bankers on agency banking as at today, because the industry is not a flat one, so there are different layers of operators that will be put in place. But once those basic things are in place, basic training, basic certification, basic identification, then it will be possible to serve members of the public a lot better. What we need to keep in mind is that financial inclusion is not a straight line. Financial inclusion is like your WAEC results. There's English, maths, biology, and all of that. So when we talk about financial inclusion, we talk about payments, which everybody can see. And 65% of Nigerians as of today have a basic bank account, which has grown rapidly because of the POS agents that are all over the place. So that's a main plus. But however, only 3% of businesses in Nigeria have access to credit, which is fundamental to economic development. So we're now moving into a phase where we're going to be having a new category of POS agents. We call them financial inclusion experts. But there are parties that you can approach, and if you're a small business, you can go to request if you can access a loan, if you can access to lease equipment, and get liquidity for your business. And there will be as plenty as POS operators as we have them all over the place in Nigeria in the coming months. And that will help us to deepen financial inclusion. We're also talking about pension, we're talking about mortgage, and we're talking about e-commerce as well. And so this specialized new category of POS agents who will be certified by the necessary institutes, the Chartered Institute of Bankers, the National Institute of Credit Administrators, Nigeria Interbank Settlement Scheme, NIMC, Data Protection Council of Nigeria. All these people, they will train these individuals so that a lot more small businesses in Nigeria can start accessing loans, grants, credits, leasing facilities that can help them to grow their businesses and Nigeria's economy.
All right. We look forward to those days when they'll be more trained, more professional, and offer more services and charge us less for giving us cash. I can't forget that. Mr. Shola Vikestate is the Executive Director of Financial Inclusion Centers, and that's the FIC Professionals Network PLC. Thank you so much for your time and perspective this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right, now the call from the Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Ahmed Dangiwa, to foreign investors to seize opportunities in the real estate sector, as well as data from Statista that the sector is set to grow exponentially, with projections indicating a market volume of about $3.41 trillion by 2029. Well, that seems to be getting traction. One of it is from the Gambia and representatives of the real estate sector in the country. They had a meeting with their counterparts here in Nigeria to discuss how to maximize the opportunities in both countries.
The opportunities are vast. It's a lot because once you are in the system, you are part of the system. We have a tourism destination country, and also looking at the fact that the investment yield is very high. We're looking at up to 15% of investment returns annually for just buying a property with a minimum cost of, let's say, we have properties at $50,000, $65,000, $80,000. So if you are getting, let's say, 10% to 15% of it, I think that's a good investment yield. The government is offering also tax incentives and offering a lot of benefits for investors coming from other parts of the world, looking at the key investment sectors, which are agriculture, energy, tourism, hospitality, and stuff like that.
Now, let's see how the market fared at the close of trade yesterday. We see that it continued that bullish trend from the day before, and the oil share index sustained the 105,000 level, was up 0.10%, and equities cap is still at 65 trillion naira. Activity chart was mostly red, however. Just deals made it out at 15,450. For the sectors, everything was in the positive. Banking, insurance, consumer goods, industrial goods, oil and gas. But Aradel has been missing in action for a couple of trading sessions now. Look at the top trades for yesterday. You can expect that it would be the financial sector that would do it. Access Coast, Sterling Bank and Zenith Bank, they topped the trades, most attractive to investors yesterday. So we'll give you intraday numbers at 1 p.m. That'll be you and I at 1 p.m. Business Incorporated, when we do 55 minutes of business. For now, let's head back to the Sunrise Daily Studio.